My name is D. Sandeep. I'm working as an assistant professor in the Department of Information Technology of MLR Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. So in previous class, we discussed about what is an OOPS concepts and what is the procedure-oriented programming language. That is, we have mainly two types of programming languages. One is procedure-oriented programming language and object-oriented programming language. So in procedure, what is the procedure-oriented programming language? Means a task is divided into subtasks, and that subtasks are going to consider as functions, routines, subroutines, procedures. And we also discuss about what is an object-oriented programming language. So what is that object-oriented programming language? Means the task is divided into subtasks. That subtask is considered as a class, and in that class we are going to create any number of objects. So that is about what object-oriented programming language. And also we seen the differences between the procedure-oriented programming language and object-oriented programming language, because of there is a lot of differences. Overloading concepts will be not applicable in procedure, but here applicable, and access specifiers concept is not applicable in procedure-oriented, but access specifiers concept is applicable in the object-oriented. So like that one, there is a lot of differences between the procedure-oriented and object-oriented programming language. And also we seen that examples, that is programming examples. For example, if you take the procedure-oriented programming language, there is a C, COBOL, right, Pascal. So these are the examples programming languages in the procedure-oriented. And coming to this one, object-oriented, we have the C++, C#, Python, Java. So these are the object-oriented programming language. Like that one, we discussed the OOPS concepts. And the OOPS concepts are class, object, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation. So among that one, first we are going to discuss the classes in Python, right? So what is the classes? What is the class in Python, and how can we define a class in Python? First, what is the class? See, a class is a collection of objects. A class is a collection of objects. That means we can, under a class, we can create any number of objects. Next, classes are blueprints for creating objects. Yes, classes is a, as we discussed previously, class, by using the class, we can create any number of objects. That's why the class, we can say blueprint. Blueprint. So a class defines a set of attributes and methods that the created objects. That means a classes defines a set of attributes, means variables, a set of attributes, or we can say properties, and methods, right? So how can we access these two? Means using object of that class. By using object of that class, we can access the variables and we can access the methods. That is the thing about this statement. And very important point in Python here is, in Python everything is an object. In Python everything is an object. So to create objects, we required some blueprint or some model or plan. That is nothing but a class. That's why class is nothing but a logical entity. What we can say? Class is a logical entity which contains the variables, methods, as well as implementations. So that's why class is what? Logical entity. And by using this class, we are going to create that objects. By using that objects, we can access the variables, we can access the methods. So that is what? That is about class. Next, properties can be represented by variables. As just now we discussed, properties, or we can say that is attributes, anything we can say. So that represented by using variables concept. Next, actions can be represented by methods. Or we can say behavior also. Behavior or action can be represented by the methods. So hence the class contain both variables and methods. Okay, both variables and methods. So that is the class. So simply, what is the class? So class is a logical entity and it is a blueprint which is used to create the objects. In class, it contains what? The variables and methods for the data, right? This is about what? Class. For example, if you take here just example, it's a like diagrammatical, or it's an example based on that image. So we had said what? For example, here we had the blueprint of the car. So now this is the class. Now by using the blueprint, we are going to create different types of cards. Different types of cards. See, different models of cards we can say. That's why we have the blueprint of a car on the left side. That means this side. This is known as the class. On the right side, we have the sum of the models. See, this is the basic blueprint of the car. And here we have the some different models. For example, this is a BMW or some another company, Toyota or Honda, like that one, right? Some different models of the car. So these different models of that car is nothing but is what? Object. So, but this is the basic blueprint. That blueprint is considered as the class. By using this blueprint, we can create any number of objects. By using this blueprint, we can manufacture any number of cards, right? So the same thing here also, right? So that is about this image explanation. Now next, how can we define a class in Python? How can we define a class in Python? Means a class is defined using class keyword. Class is defined using class keyword. Here the syntax: class followed by class name followed by what? Colon. And then here what? Double quotations of 3. Actually here we have to represent double quotations of 3. This is the documentation string, and then in this class we are going to define the variables, methods in the statements, right? So what is this documentation string? So this documentation string represents description of the class or description about the class. Now within the class, documentation string is optional. Documentation string is optional. So let me try an example. First, we'll define a class. How can we define a class? By using class keyword. So class, and the class name here is test. Now double quotations. For example, what is that one? This is MLR. So this is what about the class. Now how can we access the documentation string? How can we access the documentation string? Means there are two ways we can access the documentation string. One is by using class name dot, we have to call this attribute double underscore. This is what? Double underscore doc double underscore. So accessible operator represent what? Dot. Okay na? And then print class name, or actually here we had that help class name. Okay na? Now see, anyway, see, print, what is the class name? Test dot double underscore doc double underscore. Now I will run this program. We will get the description about the class. What is the description about the class? This is MLR. And if we had that, print, for example, class name. Okay na? See what we get means simply that is double underscore main. Actually here we have to use the function that is help function. We can also use the help function. Now see what will be happen. So first we are going to access the document that is description about the class. This is MLR, and then the class test contains that main. So what is that one? This is the main module. So this is the MLR and data display. That means if there is an variables or if there is an any objects, that will be represent here. Okay, but in this class there is no variables and there is no objects, right? So that's why it shows this one. Okay, so in this way we can access the description of the class. The description of the class. And that description of the class can be represented using what? Documentation string, or we can say doc string within the 3 double quotations, right? So anyway, here we are going to define the class using which keyword? Class keyword, right? And within this Python class, we can represent the data. So how we have to represent the data in Python class means by using variables, right? Variables is nothing but what? So variable represents the memory address of a value where the data is stored. Okay, variable represents the memory address of the data where the data is stored in the memory. So that is about what? Variable. So variables are 3 types. One is instance variable, static variable, and local variable. Yeah. Instance variables is also nothing but, okay, see, instance variables is also nothing but object level variables, and static variables is also nothing but class level variables. Local variables is nothing but what? Method based variable, method level variables. Static variables is nothing but what? Class level variables, and local variables is nothing but method level variables. So this is about what? Class. Okay, na? And this is the example. Already we discussed about this one, right? So next, here finally, the class in Python is what? User defined blueprints. Why we are going to say user defined blueprints means because of by using class keyword, the programmer are going to create the different types of different class. For example, here sample, like that one, we can create as a programmers any number of classes, and these classes are going to create what? Help us to create what? An object. Now objects are these on, yes, we can say that objects are instance of that particular class. Anyway, we will discuss about how we can create an object and what is an object. Okay. Next, the variables inside the class are known as what? Attributes, or we can say properties. Next, the functions which we define inside the class are known as methods. That means, yes, there is one important thing we have to know here. For example, a function is defined outside of the class, then that is called a function. But a function is defined within the class or inside the class is known as methods. So that is the differences between the function and methods. That is the differences between the function and methods. So this is the two important statement in summary. One is the variables inside the class is known as attributes. Attributes are, we can say, properties, or we can say sometimes that is attributes, anything. And the functions are, we can say, methods. That methods represents what? That is behavior, or we can say actions of that thing, right? So this is about what? Class and what? Attributes and methods, as well as about the documentation string. In next class, we will discuss about what is an object and how we can create an object. Okay, thank you.